Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the new Ram Dakota and whether or not Ram is going to revive the Dodge Dakota under the Ram brand name for the US market. And I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory, so let's get right into the video. So it has been about a decade since the Dakota was discontinued, and ever since it was discontinued, people have been asking when Dodge or Ram are going to bring the truck back. And obviously we're talking about Ram because Ram is now the truck segment for Chrysler, right? They kind of split the brands up so that Ram is the trucks and then Dodge is kind of like the performance vehicles. But aside from that, right, something that's interesting is Ford discontinued the Ranger at about the same time that Dodge discontinued the Dakota. Ford's brought back the Ranger back in 2019. Ram hasn't brought back the Dakota, so it's kind of interesting that they haven't done that. Aside from that, the rumors that we have heard so far is maybe it's going to be called like a Ram 1000, right? That would just be a smaller version of what we have right now, and that would be the midsize truck, or again, just rebranding it under the Ram name, making it the Ram Dakota. Now, we don't have a whole lot of information at this point, so in this first part, I'm just going to quickly go over what we do know, and then I'm going to get purely into speculation, but hopefully you guys will still enjoy it. Anyways, into what we do know, Fiat is building a truck called the Fiat Toro, which is based off of the same platform that the Jeep Renegade is built off of, and it's supposed to be a mid-sized truck, and so they could potentially use that same truck and just reskin it, and then, you know, obviously rebadge it to be a Ram Dakota. So we do have that. That is something that is real, right? There is going to be a Fiat Toro, and so they could potentially do that, and that's how we could bring back the Dakota. Aside from that, what they could do is they could completely, you know, build a new platform or something like that. They could go that route. That's obviously very expensive. I don't think they're going to do that. Or what they could do is they could build it off of a different platform. Now, there's a few different platforms that they have available to them right now. Obviously, Ram just has the half-ton platform, the 2500, and then the 3500. That's really not going to work. And so they would have to take something from one of the other brands. So maybe what they could do is they could take the platform that the new Grand Cherokee is on. We've got the Grand Cherokee and the Grand Cherokee L. So maybe they could take that platform basically, and they could, you know, pretty much reconstruct it so that it works for a truck. That would be a little bit weird, but again, I'm just trying to get into speculation in terms of, you know, what they would do to be able to make a mid-size truck work in the US market. Now, platforms aside, what would they probably use for like the exterior styling and interior and all that? So I think that they would probably want to have it look like what the new Rams basically look like on the outside. So they'd probably take the styling that you have on the 1500 and just kind of make it smaller, and that's what it would look like. I don't think that they would do the same styling that it used to have with the last generation Dakota that they discontinued. I think that, again, obviously they're going to do something new, but I think they're just going to make it look like a mini half-ton if they did release it again. In terms of the interior, this would be the exciting part. So if you guys aren't familiar with the mid-size truck segment, it's kind of interesting from an interior perspective. You can get kind of like nice interiors, but not necessarily really nice interiors, because mid-size trucks are supposed to be a little bit more affordable. And so what they would probably do is something similar to that, but maybe they would even take the interior that they have in the Ram 1500 Limited and they could put that in the Dakota, and you'd have like your first real luxury mid-size truck. That would actually be pretty cool. But I can imagine, again, we'd have like a trickle down of all the tech we have from the 1500s into that truck interior wise, and then safety tech wise and all that. And so I think that's the route that they would go, but they would probably end it at the Laramie package. But I mean, again, it'd be cool if they did a limited with a mid-size truck. Now, aside from the interior, in terms of powertrain and suspension and all that, I think from a suspension standpoint, they would probably do the 5-link coil system, because that's what they use in the 1500s. They only use leaf springs on the 3500 at this point, and so they'd probably do something like that with the truck. And so then I think that's just what would be from a suspension standpoint. From a powertrain perspective, this is where things get a little bit complicated. Like, what powertrain would they use? So obviously they've got that 3.6 liter V6, the Pentastar V6, that they could use for the truck, and that one kind of makes the most sense because that one has the right amount of power for a mid-sized truck. But I can already hear people, screaming out in agony that they don't like that engine whatsoever, and I completely understand that. There's quite a few different powertrains that they have available, right? We've got, again, that Pentastar V6, and then if you look over on the Jeep side of things, we have the 2.0 that they put in the Gladiator, or not the Gladiator, sorry, the Wrangler, that was my bad. We've got the 2.0 they put in the Wrangler, and now they've got that 2.0 paired to a hybrid system for the Wrangler 4xe, and so they could put that into the new Dakota, and that would be a really cool powertrain, right? That with the 8-speed automatic would just be fantastic. In the Wrangler, it makes about 375 horsepower, and so that is more than enough, again, for a mid-sized truck. But I guess what I'm trying to say is they've got powertrains available, they've got platforms available, they have exterior styling that they can just pretty much steal, interior elements that they can steal, and so I don't think it would be too much of a stretch for them to make this truck, because they could pretty much just bring a bunch of stuff together. Now, again, I think the platform is the most important part, right? Are you going to do a unibody platform truck, or are you going to do a body on frame? I think that would be probably the most important decision to make, and then all the other stuff I think would be pretty easy to throw into the truck. I want you guys to let me know in the comment section below which one you'd prefer. I can kind of already guess that most people would prefer the body on frame to the unibody, because whenever people think of unibody trucks, they think of the Honda Ridgeline, which I get it. But yeah, that's pretty much what we know so far, and then my speculation. And now let's get into why Ram should do this. Now, the reason that Ram should do this is the mid-size truck segment is becoming extremely hot at this point. There's a lot of people that want mid-size trucks, and it's not for the reasons that Ram thinks. So the reason that Ram doesn't have a mid-size truck right now is they still sell the older body style alongside the new body style. You guys all know that, right? Because you've seen me review the classic Warlocks pretty much every single year since 2019, which is kind of crazy to think about, because it's like the new body style came out years ago and you can still buy a brand new old body style truck. And what Ram kind of says is, oh, if someone wants to buy a truck that is less expensive than a half-ton that's in that mid-sized truck price range, they can just buy the old body style Ram. I get that logic, but that's not the reason why people buy mid-sized trucks necessarily. Yes, people that buy mid-sized trucks want something that's a little bit less expensive from a price point perspective, but there's other reasons, right? They want a truck that's smaller in size, gets better gas mileage as well, and along with the smaller size, right, it's easier to park, it does better off-road because it's smaller, and there's just a bunch of reasons why people get mid-sized trucks. And then also from a look perspective, right, there's a lot of people that just like that aesthetic of a smaller truck versus the aesthetic you get with a half-ton or bigger. And so I think that Ram is kind of missing the boat. They're just looking at this from a monetary standpoint, where they're going, oh, these people are just buying it because of the amount of money, and it's like, yes and no. And so I think that they need to bring this back so that we have a competitor, and I think it would be a really serious competitor, and it would kind of shake things up with the segment if they do it right. If they add a really strong powertrain, what would be really cool actually is, from a powertrain perspective, if they throw the 5.7 Hemi into that, then well, that would be a mid-sized truck that would be pretty fun. But aside from that, I think that they could release this mid-sized truck with really strong powertrain options that would have really cool exterior styling, because a lot of people are a fan of the styling with the Ram 1500. I am, obviously. And then they could really change the mid-sized truck segment by bringing a true luxury truck into the segment. They could do this Dakota with a limited interior, and nothing else would be able to compete with it, because right now, if you look at the interiors with all the other mid-sized trucks, they just aren't all that nice. Even on the high-end packages, they don't necessarily have really nice interiors. And so if they went and they spent some money on the interior and they basically just carried all the elements down from the 1500, then this would just be such a cool truck. And then we could obviously expand from that, because I think the mid-sized truck segment is going to continually expand because people are just not really interested in buying cars anymore. And so then they could expand to make better fuel economy versions, and then obviously higher performance versions, just to pick up different buyers. And so yes, I definitely think that they should make it. I understand why they're not doing it at this point, but I think that that's the wrong approach because of where the market's going. People don't want cars anymore, they want trucks, and people that go from a car to an SUV or a truck generally are not going to go from like a car to the biggest SUV or truck. They're going to do something that's kind of in between, and that's where mid-sized trucks sit. And I mean, look at Ford with the new Maverick. They are catching on, and so Ram needs to catch on and take advantage of this growing market before it's too late. But with all that being said, that's going to sum things up for our video. As always, if you're stopping in for the first time, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe. And then if you feel like my videos are of value to you, I'm going to include a link to my Patreon in the description down below. I really appreciate your support over there. And yeah, I'll see you guys.